In the lush green valley of woolly hills, where llamas grazed peacefully under the warm sun, Larry the llama stood out, not because he was taller, fluffier, or had a shinier coat than the rest, but because his gaze was never on the grass. While the other llamas had their noses buried in clumps of clover, Larry's eyes were always turned upward toward the sky, following the drifting clouds and the birds gliding effortlessly on the wind. One bright morning, two eagles soared over the mountains, their wings slicing through the air in perfect harmony. Larry's heart thudded in his chest, and in that instant, he decided he, too, would learn to fly. Of course, the idea of a llama taking to the skies was absurd to everyone else. "Larry, llamas don't fly," Daisy, the oldest and wisest in the herd, said with a patient smile. "It's not in our nature." Buck, the grumpiest llama, snorted. "It's not in our bones either. You'll break your neck before you leave the ground." But Larry wasn't discouraged. "Maybe no llama has flown before," he said, "but that just means I'll be the first." Larry began his training immediately. He studied the birds in the meadow, mimicking their wing flaps with his legs, which just made him look like he was doing some bizarre dance. He even practiced running starts, sprinting from one end of the pasture to the other until he was panting. His first invention was a pair of wings made from two enormous bedsheets he borrowed from Farmer Joe's laundry line. He tied them tightly to his sides with rope and secured a shiny metal colander on his head for protection. Standing atop the tallest hill in Woolly Hills, he puffed out his chest and announced to the herd, "Today, history will be made." The llamas gathered below, whispering and chuckling. Larry sprinted down the hill, sheets billowing behind him, and leapt into the air. For a breathtaking moment, the wind caught his sheets, and he felt weightless. But then gravity yanked him down, and he landed face first in a haystack with a muffled whump. Pulling himself free, straw sticking out of his ears, he said confidently, "Just a test flight." The next day, Larry tried a more scientific method, balloons. He tied 30 brightly colored balloons to his back, imagining himself floating upward like a cloud. At first, it almost worked. He hovered about 2 feet off the ground. But then a sudden gust of wind pushed him sideways into the chicken coop. Feathers exploded everywhere, chickens squawked and flapped in a frenzy, and one particularly bold hen perched on his head, glaring at him like he'd ruined her afternoon. "I'm not a taxi service," Larry complained, shaking her off, but the herd was laughing so hard they were rolling on the ground. Undeterred, Larry crafted wings from giant palm leaves, thinking they'd be stronger than bedsheets. Unfortunately, they tore the instant he jumped, sending him tumbling downhill into Farmer Joe's wheelbarrow. The wheelbarrow rolled faster and faster before crashing into the duck pond, where Larry emerged soaked, algae dripping from his ears, and a duck standing on his head looking deeply unimpressed. The crowd of llamas found this even funnier than the chicken incident. "You're becoming a mobile petting zoo," Daisy teased. One afternoon, Larry discovered Farmer Joe's enormous kite drying on the fence. "Perfect," he said, tying himself to it. When the wind picked up, the kite lifted him high above the meadow, and for the first time, he truly felt airborne. "I'm flying," he shouted. But then the kite spun wildly, flipping him upside down and dragging him across the pasture like a runaway mop before planting him into a hay bale. He emerged dizzy but grinning. Almost had it that time. The herd thought that would be the end of his attempts, but Larry was more determined than ever. His most ambitious plan came when he built a wooden cart, strapped dozens of firework rockets to the back, and aimed it down the hill. "This is it," he said as he lit the fuses. The cart shot forward so fast the wind flattened his fur. For 5 glorious seconds, Larry felt unstoppable, until the cart hit a rock. The rocket spun him in wild circles, and he flew straight into Farmer Joe's laundry line, where he dangled upside down wrapped in underwear and socks. The herd laughed so hard some fell over. Days later, after several smaller and equally ridiculous trials involving umbrellas, trampoline jumps, and even a pair of roller skates, which ended with him tangled in a tomato patch, Larry decided it was time to go back to basics. On a breezy afternoon, wearing only his trusty colander helmet and a curtain for a cape, he climbed the tallest hill in Woolly Hills. No balloons, no rockets, no leaves, just him and the wind. The llamas gathered silently at the bottom, sensing something different this time. Larry closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and charged forward. The wind rushed against him as he leapt, his cape flapping like real wings. For one perfect second, he felt like he truly belonged in the air. Then, gently, he landed in a wide patch of wildflowers, rolling to a stop with a smile on his face. Daisy approached, shaking her head. "You still didn't fly, Larry?" "I know," Larry said with a grin. "But I went farther than ever before. And that's close enough. For now." From that day on, Larry wasn't known as Larry the Flying Llama but as Larry the Jumping Legend, a name he wore proudly as he entertained the herd with his daring leaps, funny crashes, and endless daydreams. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he still imagined the day when he might try again, perhaps with a rocket-powered trampoline, a flock of cooperative geese, or who knows, maybe even a hot air balloon.